3, 2, 1, mark.
T-minus 9 minutes and counting.
GLS auto sequence has been initiated.
So we heard all members of the teams are ready to launch today, with the exception of getting a final clearance from the weather conditions at our transoceanic abort sites. We are counting down to the T-minus 5 minute mark, where the clock will be held if we need to wait on the weather to clear at the tail sites.
Step 1054. At OTC entity.
OTC.
Yeah, we're going to not perform APU pre-start since we're going to hold at 5.
Copy the delay on pre-start. PLT, configure fuel cell essential bus flow switches. PLT in work. OTC, PLT, essential buses to fuel cell complete. Copy. ARPS, we will delay starting your recorders.
ARPS, copy.
Pilot Brown has configured the orbiter's crew cabin switches to directly connect the 3 fuel cells to the essential power buses.
Go ahead, please.
Atlantis, Houston, update to the KSC altimeter setting 3020.
Copy, KSC altimeter 3020.
The orbiter access arm is now being retracted away from the vehicle. It can be extended in just a few seconds if necessary. This puts the arm in the launch configuration.
And entity, the clock will hold at T-minus 5 minutes. I copy GLS, thank you.
T-minus 6 minutes, 30 seconds, and counting.
Launch director, flight on Interground 1.
Go ahead, flight.
Yeah, Bob, I think the story we have here with Ben Guerrier is that we have a couple of knot violation on the forecast. The last several observations we have are actually within our crosswind limits. We believe that the forecast bounds the problem, and the worst we'll have is 18 knots in the crosswind. And it is very potential that we'll have something on the order of the previous observations that we've seen, which are on the order of 16 knots. Stand by 1. Launch director, flight on Interground.
Go ahead, Jeff.
I still believe that 18 knots and a lighted Ben Guerrier is an acceptable landing condition today. And I do believe that bounds the case, and that we potentially could be a few knots less than that. So my recommendation of the program at this time is that these are acceptable conditions to launch.
Copy, and I did understand that the trend was downward from the previous ops. Okay, flight and ops manager.
Go ahead.
Okay, Lauren. Well, you've heard the forecast and the reported and the recommendation for proceeding with these conditions, and would like your approval or concurrence on this particular item before we proceed.
And for Jeff, how long have we noticed the winds on the downward trend now?
Well, I have them from hour and a half ago. We were in the 20-knot region, And then at 30 minutes ago, they were in the 17, 18 knot region. And then the last 15 or 20 minutes, they've been in the 15 knot region. And those have been the observations. There is a few inaccuracies in those, but I feel very confident that 18 knots is a bound, and that would be acceptable. And there's a reasonable chance there would be a few knots less than that.
Okay.
And I believe the lighted conditions for the first 20 minutes on Ben Gurion runway makes that acceptable.
And the flight crew ops, you have a recommendation? Okay. Turns out he can't talk on air ground 1, but he agrees that we think we have a bounded condition, and you'll go to pick up the count.
Okay, copy. NCD launch director?
Yes, sir.
Okay, what work do we have remaining before...
We've got to do APU pre-start, and we've also got to activate the RPS's recorders.
Okay, well, why don't you put that in work, and maybe we can get Atlantis and this crew up in orbit today.
Okay, I copy. With that, once we get that completed, we'll be able to go pick up the count then?
Yeah, go to proceed.
I copy that. OTC entity, perform APU pre-start and activate your recorders, please. Copy that. JRPS, OTC. This is JRPS. Start recorders. Recorders running, sir. Copy. PLT, perform APU pre-start. PLT in work.
We're standing by to resume our launch countdown at the T-minus 5-minute mark. Just activating recorders.
And GLS entity 212. Go ahead, sir. As soon as we get APU pre-start completed, we're going to give you a go to pick up the count, just as a heads up.
Okay, we'll stand by.
RTC, PLT, APU pre-start complete. 3 gray talkbacks. Copy 3 gray. And OTC entity, I copy. You have recorders up with JRPS? Firm, recorders are running. Okay, I copy. GLS, pick up the count.
Okay, stand by, sir, while we reset those measurements. Okay, countdown clock will resume on my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark. GLS is go for orbiter APU start.
PLT, perform APU start. PLT in work.
Pilot
reconfigure fast heaters.
Pilot Kirk Brown. Now activating orbiter APUs. Commander McMonagle is asked to reconfigure the orbiter system heaters for launch.
CDR heater reconfig complete. Copy, Don. OTC, PLT, APU start complete. 3 in high green. Copy.
And we have 3 good APUs. The APUs provide hydraulic power to the vehicle system, such as the aero surfaces and the landing gear, flight control system.
GLS is go for purge sequence 4.
Final purge of the main engines is going to happen in a few seconds. Also, the engine valves are being opened to prepare for engine start. A profile test of the orbiter's aero surfaces has started. They're being moved through a pre-programmed pattern to verify they are ready for launch. The 3 main engines are being gimbaled and positioned for launch. All systems are go for launch at this time, just a few minutes away from the 13th voyage of Atlantis with a crew of 6 on a 10-day flight to study the effects of the sun on the Earth's atmosphere. T-minus 3 minutes and counting.
GLS go for EP LO2 pressurization.
PLT, clear caution warning memory, verify no unexpected errors. PLT inlet.
Retraction of the gaseous oxygen vent hood is now underway. Flight crew will close and lock their visors in the next few seconds.
OTC PLT, caution warning, memory clear is complete, no unexpected messages. After that, all crew members close and lock your visors, initiate O2 flow. Good go to take Atlantis back to the skies. We'll be happy to do that. We'll see you in about 11 days.
Okay, let's go for ET LH2 pressurization.
Tank holding liquid hydrogen propellant used to feed the main engine is now being pressurized. Atlantis will be launched on a northerly trajectory on an orbit inclined 57 degrees to the equator.
1 minute 30.
Less than a minute away now from the launch of Atlantis, the 7th shuttle flight this year and the 66th space shuttle launch.
One minute.
Just past the 1 minute mark, Atlantis is now going to be operating from internal power supplies. At the T-minus 31 second mark, Atlantis' onboard computers will have control of vehicle functions. T-minus 35 seconds.
GLS is go for auto sequence start.
In the next few seconds, thousands of gallons of water will be dumped on the platform to help absorb the shock of the 7 million pounds of thrust produced by the shuttle.
15.
T-minus 15 seconds. 12, 11, 10, 9,
GLS is go
8,
for main engine start.
7. We are go for main engine start. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Booster ignition and liftoff of Atlantis on a mission to study planet Earth.
Roll program, Houston.
Roger, roll, Atlantis.
Houston now controlling. Atlantis is underway on its 13th trip to space, rolling on course for a 57-degree inclination orbit for a highly north and south inclined orbit at an altitude of 160 nautical miles. Atlantis speed is already 350 miles an hour. 3 engines on Atlantis are now throttling back to 2/3 throttle to prepare the spacecraft to pass through the area of maximum air pressure and go supersonic. About a minute and 5 seconds since launch. Atlantis speed now 1,000 miles an hour. Altitude 7 miles, 5 miles east of the Kennedy Space Center.
Go at throttle up.
Roger, go at throttle up.
Atlantis 3 main engines are now back at full throttle. All systems on the spacecraft are go. 1.5 minutes since liftoff, Atlantis has already burned more than 2.25 million pounds of propellant and weighs less than half of what it did at launch. Atlantis altitude 84,000 feet, 12 miles northeast of the Kennedy Space Center. Atlantis speed now 2,200 miles an hour. Flight controllers are standing by for burnout and separation of the twin solid rocket boosters. Booster officer confirms a good separation and jettison of the twin solid rockets. Atlantis now on its second stage. Its 3 main engines continuing to operate well at full full throttle.
Atlantis performance nominal.
Copy.
That call to Atlantis indicating that its performance on the solid rockets is just as planned to this point. Endeavour's 3 main engines will now continue to burn for another 6.5 minutes to reach orbital velocity.
Atlantis 2-engine Ben Guerir.
Copy. 2-engine Ben Guerir.
Endeavour speed now 3,500 miles an hour. That call indicating that Endeavour